This is the Barbecue Central Radio Show, which airs live every Tuesday evening from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Barbecue Central Show is being brought to you by Big Papa Smokers. Big Papa is the one-stop shop for anyone interested in barbecue, featuring a comprehensive selection of all American-made grills, spices, sauces, accessories, and everything that you need to make a world-class pit out of a 55-gallon drum. Visit them at bigpapasmokers.com. And by the Barbecue Guru, makers of automatic pit temperature control devices and pits as well. You can visit them at thebbqguru.com. And by Cook Shack, a leader in pellet and electric style cookers. Visit them for specials online at cookshack.com or call them at 800-423-0698. And by Sucklebusters. Sucklebusters products are preferred by competition barbecue cooks. Texas-based, 100% made in the USA. Introduced first products to Barbecue Central over 7 years ago. You can get in contact with them at sucklebusters.com. Like them on their Facebook fan page, Sucklebusters, or visit thetexasbbqforum.com. Check them out and see why Sucklebusters means bustin' with flavor. And by Stephen DeFranco Jeweler, the official jeweler of the Barbecue Central Show. Visit them at StephenDeFranco.com or call 440-943-2700. And by Butcher Barbecue, makers of injections, sauces, and rubs. Find them online at butcherbbq.com. And by Green Mountain Grills, a leader in the pellet grill market. You can find out more about their cookers by visiting greenmountaingrills.com. And by cookinpellets.com, a maker of high-quality pellets for all of your pellet-driven cookers. You can visit them at cookinpellets.com, or you can find them at amazon.com as well.
This is Chad Hayden with Minnesota Barbecue's 19th Annual Jack Daniel's World Barbecue Champion, and this is Barbecue Central.
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
All right. I can't hear me. Greetings and welcome to the Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling. We broadcast live and direct from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio. It is the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday. If you want to jump in on the show tonight, more than happy to have you with a phone call, 216-220-0966. You can also email the show, Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening on your show this evening, coming up in about 13 minutes from now, if you didn't get the newsletter. The grand champion of the Lake Havasu barbecue contest this past weekend in Lake Havasu, Arizona, Ryan Moore of Knock Your Socks Off Barbecue. Then, after Ryan, 9:35. I think kind of a barbecue living legend, winner of much. Moving on to the Sam's Club Regional Final, getting a 6th place overall, the pitmaster of Lotta Bull Barbecue, Mike Davis, joining us right here on the show. Then we will move to the second hour, and it's going to be all Houston livestock and rodeo all the time. Grand champion to recap the weekend, Doug Scheiding of Rogue Cookers and Across the Tracks Barbecue. We'll talk about that a little bit more in detail next hour with Doug. And the reserve grand champion of the Houston Livestock and Rodeo, friend of the show, pitmaster of Iowa Smokey D's, Darren Warth, will be joining. All right, so a loaded show. Some of the biggest names out there in barbecue right now. Some of the biggest winners of this past weekend in barbecue right now. You will find them here over the next 2 hours. If you are watching the show right now, do me a favor. Blast off an email or make a Facebook post. Get on the Twitter. Do something social media-wise to let all your friends and neighbors know that you are watching the show. A couple different links that you can send them to. If you know they only like the audio, and let's face it, most people only like the audio, which I certainly get, you can send them to the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. You can also get audio links on iTunes Radio under the Talk Radio section, I believe. Barbecue Central Radio is listed right there in that section. If you like video, we have that as well. Longtime show syndicate on the video side of things, Outdoor Cooking Channel's Kevin Bevington. You can find that link at outdoorcookingchannel.com/watch-now if you want to go directly there. You can also go to outdoorcookingchannel.com and then click Watch Now. If you have Roku or some other IP television type devices, go to that particular platform's app store and search around for Outdoor Cooking Channel. If you have it, download it immediately, if not sooner. And you have the option of watching the live show right there on your IP television device or platform or whatever you want to call it. And then you can also find a host of archives there as well. Don't forget, you can subscribe to this show each and every week, Tuesdays from 9 to 11 through iTunes, which is the most popular way to get it after the fact on the audio side. This show has an associated YouTube channel, which you can go to. It's /barbecue, BARBECUE, then the numeral 4, and then the letter U. You can also get video replays, of course, at outdoorcookingchannel.com. And, of course, the main website, Barbecue Central, thebbqcentralshow.com, is the main clearinghouse for video and audio replays of this show. If you want to go there each and every Wednesday or days in between, too, if you just want to peruse around and see what's happening, more than happy to have you. But you can go there every Wednesday and get the audio replay first, and then at some point later on Wednesday, late morning, early afternoon, the video typically makes it up there as well. So there's no reason you should ever miss anything on this show, ever, no matter what they say, no matter who they're saying it to. It doesn't matter. You can always find a show like tonight with so many big-name guests that are out there coming on this show, but you might have something, I don't want to say you have something better to do than to sit around with your smart device listening to the audio show or getting on a computer or a tablet or whatever you have and watching the show on a Tuesday. Maybe you're taking in the Cavs game. I mean, who's not taking in the Cavs game right now? Which actually is probably getting ready to be over. They're on a little bit of a schneid right now, but they're hopefully working their way back into the winning ways that Clevelanders have become accustomed to here over the last number of games. Also, we're here in a bit of a warm-up today. It's almost 39 degrees here in Cleveland today. Wow. Breath of hell out here. It was supposed to be warmer than that today. But the ice had other plans, of course. So if you are into cooking, maybe you got out, enjoyed some of the nice weather today, depending on where you're at, and you had some outdoor grilling, you had some outdoor barbecue, something along those lines. Let me know what you did. I got 6 feet of snow in the backyard, cleared off, waiting for some wood pellets.
Oh, no!
Soon enough. And then we'll be back to live, local, and late-breaking cooking as it relates to my particular domain. Maybe you aren't in a similar fashion. But it has been so brutally cold, like brutally cold, that even the most hardiest of grill fellow has got to be at least, maybe you still go out and do it. Maybe you're that tough of a guy. Maybe I'm not. But even the most hardiest of fellow has to question a little bit about going out and cooking, even if you're grilling, the shorter of the two. was trying to find an article that I was going to share with you. Oh, beer and barbecue among perks for criminal bosses in Bahia prison. A barbecue amongst friends with photographer and beer. The scene is a commonplace all over Brazil. What makes this case unusual is the gathering took place in a penitentiary. In another photo, a prisoner poses with a running machine and exercise bike. These privileges are called frentes, criminal bosses who run sections of the prison. Some cells have food processors and fans. Wow. So evidently, if you are in big trouble and you get thrown into the huscow, anybody say huscow? Into the cooler in Brazil, if you align yourself with the proper criminal bosses. And I think Brazil pretty well known for some crime down there. But you align yourself with the right person, you could be literally eating high off the hog. Point of note for you ne'er-do-wells, malfeasance, and otherwise no-gooders. Instead of getting thrown in the jail here in the States, right? Go down to Brazil, get your crime in there, get caught, and then, once you get into the jail, find bosses that run certain sections of the prison that get barbecue, that have their hands on pork butts and are friendly with the sales staff, with the prison staff who give you cell phones to make calls and all this other stuff. Wow. Gotta go. Gotta go to Brazil if you're going to be committing crime. Also, we're going to be touching on in the top of the second hour, I forgot to mention, stop the insanity. Barbecue pitmasters told to take down the American flag. What? We'll get into that a little bit. That made FoxNews.com. So we'll decipher that a little bit and see what you think. Actually, probably able to ask Mike Davis a little bit about it at 9:35, since he was at that particular contest. That came on really loud. Ryan Moore coming up out of the break. Folks, Cook Shack's innovative technology for smoker ovens will change the face of barbecue with the release of the new IQ5 digital controller. The IQ5 controller, the newest technology in commercial cooking, smoking, and holding. Restaurants, food trucks, competition cooks, and backyard chefs alike enjoy sleep with the ability to set a smoker, leave, and come back in the morning with a day's worth of smoked foods. The IQ5 controller allows up to 3 stages of cooking, including smoke, cook, and hold steps. Since pellets produce more heat under 180 degrees Fahrenheit, all 3 stages are important. The smoke stage adds the smoke flavor. The cook stage gets the food to the required internal temperature, while the hold stage allows the meat to stay hot while sitting in the smoker until food is ready to be served, not letting it get into that danger zone that we always talk about here on the show. Consistency is easier than ever to achieve. The IQ5 controller includes a digital readout, meat probe attachment, up to 3 stages of cooking options, and a USB port to download and keep track of cooking cycles. With the IQ5 controller, you have the option to download your smoking, cooking, and holding logs to FAT-formatted USB flash drives. The IQ5 controller will maintain 1023 cycles. That is 512 hours of cook time. This controller is standard equipment on a Cook Shack commercial smoker oven with a capacity of 100 to 750 pounds. Options are available for upgrading your current equipment from the IQ4 to the IQ5 as well. The IQ5 controller has, for the first time in Cook Shack history, the ability to program your own preset buttons. 8 preset buttons come programmed with standard meat cuts such as brisket, ribs, and prime rib. However, changing these presets is easy as setting your times and temperatures and pressing the coordinating preset in less than 5 seconds. Set yourself apart from the competition with this great new feature. For more information on the IQ5 controller or any Cook Shack commercial or competition smoker, give them a call directly, please. 800-423-0698. That's 800-423-0698. You can also visit cookshack.com. That's their website, their web presence. I mean, how great to set your own presets on the Cook Shack, push buttons, That's it. You're done. Walk away, do whatever else you need to get done. Bam. That's great stuff. If you love pellets, you love cook shacks, you've been thinking about cook shacks, and more importantly, if you have a barbecue restaurant, you can use a pellet cooker here now. You have the downloadable data for FDA, just like Stuart talked about it when he was on the show a couple weeks ago. All right, Ryan Moore coming up out of the break. Knock your socks off to recap Lake Havasu. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Radio Network studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. 216-220-0966. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. This portion of the Barbecue Central Show brought to you by cookandpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookandpellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also visit amazon.com to purchase as well. Good folks over at cookandpellets.com. Give them a holler if you got those pellet-driven cookers. All right, my first guest tonight was in Lake Havasu this past weekend, along with 81 other teams trying to win Grand Champion. After posting a 704.5 overall score, they walked off with that coveted title and some really nice bragging rights as well. Some cash, too. Let's get a recap from the pitmaster of Knock Your Socks Off Barbecue. First-timer to the show. Help me welcome Ryan Moore to the Barbecue Central Show. Ryan, how are you, bud?
Good, yourself?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous. Man, Ryan, you have the best phone I have ever heard. Are you on like a landline or something?
No, I'm on Android. You know, we're sponsored by Android.
My goodness. Well, let me just say, this is something spectacular cell phone-wise. It sounds like you're on Skype for crying out loud, so I appreciate that.
Oh.
Hey,
Right.
Ryan, for the folks that maybe don't know you specifically, or they're just kind of getting into the world of competition barbecue, or maybe just barbecue and grilling in general, maybe a little background about yourself personally and professionally, and then we'll get into the barbecue stuff.
Personally, no. I used to me and my wife used to cook and just with friends and just do competitions, like, you know, just amongst ourselves. And then we said, we should take it to the next level. And we started looking it up online. And then we saw a competition in California, so we just went and walked. And then after that, then the Pit Masters came out. Then we said, all right, let's try it out. And then after that, we took it professionally.
So would you say that the show Barbecue Pit Masters was a fairly large driving force for you to get into it, a little bit more professional?
No. I mean, it was just everybody that was at the competition that we went to. And it just seemed like a lot of fun, like a lot of people just having fun and just cooking and hanging out with family and friends. And that's what we wanted to do. What
year was that when you decided to go ahead and jump into the circuit?
The year was 2010. We decided we felt comfortable with our cooking, and then we would jump into it. So that's when we established, and then 2011 was our first actual comp.
All right, so you got about 4 years of competition barbecue underneath your belt or so right now. You know,
yes.
Last weekend, or this past weekend, Lake Havasu, really big event. Big weekend, actually, for competition barbecue in general, with some of the other big events going on across different sanctioning bodies. But 82 teams hit Lake Havasu this past weekend. I guess in an overall sense, your take on the event itself, and how did the cook go for you and the team in general?
We always at Havasu, we love Havasu. It's a great event, and because you never know, it's usually raining or it's windy, and so now it starts becoming like an even playing field, but we're from Fontana, so it's windy, so we're used to the wind, and so when it comes to when it came down to our cook, I thought our cook was really good, and I wouldn't say like 700, but I was shocked it was 700. But it was really good. I thought we'd be at least in the top 5.
Do you usually find that if you're happy with your cooks, you don't usually get the corresponding scores from the judges like so many other pitmasters?
I would say the only one would probably be the ribs sometimes for me, because that one, every time I cook on that, I always think it's good, but sometimes, maybe they're a little tough and they still get like a 10th, but I mean, when I think they're cooked perfectly, it could go downfall. But this weekend, I thought they were really good.
Ryan Moore from Knock Your Socks Off Barbecue joining me here talking about the Lake Havasu competition this past weekend. Ryan, when you look at the individual category scores, you're 5th overall in chicken, so very good there, especially out of the number of teams. You take 2nd in ribs, 5th in pork, 5th in brisket. It's easy to go say you didn't do any worse than a 5th overall, and you took 2nd in the ribs, as I mentioned just a second ago. When it comes to chicken, Ryan, are you a team that, because you have a number of years underneath your belt, you're probably doing the same kind of processes, or at least you found a program that you think works right now? Do you taste chicken after you take it off the cooker and look to re-season it or adjust any profiles before you put it in the box and run it out?
My wife does. She could handle the hot right off the grill, but I'll wait, and give it like 5-10 minutes, and then I'll try it because it's cooled down, and I'm hoping that's when the judges are trying it. And if it still tastes as good as it did off the grill, then we're completely satisfied with it. But I mean, with all our meats and everything, I mean, what it really comes down to is it's just the West Coast offense. It's Simply Marvelous rubs and Big Papa rubs. That's what really helps us out.
I hear it kind of week in and week out from the pitmasters that I'm interviewing here on the show. It's consistency, right? In the cook and the process, those are the keys to success. You have 3 5ths, you have the 2nd overall. It's really kind of hard to get a little bit more consistent than that during a cook, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. It's, I mean, we felt that, I actually thought this weekend, like the brisket would be the 2nd, and then the ribs would be like, the 5th. But I mean, you just leave it in the hands to the judges. That's all you can do, and hope all of them like it. So, I mean, yeah, consistency is key, and that's what we always focus on.
After you get the 5th place brisket call, and you've obviously had the 5th in pork, 2nd ribs, 5th in chicken, do you have a pretty good feeling that you might be topping 81 other teams and walking away with it all?
It's in the back of my mind, but it's always going to be deja vu for us on that, because we went to Vegas and had 2 firsts and a 10th, like 2 firsts and 1 in ribs, chicken, and pork got a 10th, and then brisket just tanked, and then, Big Papa won it, and then, because everybody's all congratulating us, and we're like, don't congratulate us. And then when he got that 180 in brisket, I know calculated wise, there's no way that we would lose, but it's still always in the back of our minds.
So when you get the call for overall grand champ, given the teams that were there, the amount of teams that were there, because I guess once you get to a certain number, there is a little bit of a crapshoot that you got to factor in regardless. What kind of a win is this compared to some of the other events that you've been at?
Yeah, I mean, we're still on cloud 9. I mean, it was just great. I mean, speechless. When I was talking to Stefan from Simply Marvelous and Ray from Porterhouse, I told him I had 3 things to do today before we had turn-ins and everything. I said, I want to win a GC, I want to order everybody pizza, and I want to go catch me a striper. But they didn't let me go catch the striper, so I got 2 out of 3.
I think there's a song that says 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right?
Yeah.
Ryan Moore joining us here on the show. Knock Your Socks Off Barbecue, recapping the Lake Havasu barbecue event that took place this past weekend. Ryan, you briefly mentioned in here a couple minutes ago in regards to the profile, flavor-wise, that you use. You said it's West Coast offense. When you got into it 4 years ago, how has your flavor profiling changed, if you will, from when you started to where you're at now?
I think when we first started, I think it started a little spicy, and then we try to flip it and make it sweet. Now we just got an even balance of everything that goes onto it on each meat, and I mean just that savory flavor, and it seems to be working. I mean, for us.
In regards to the West Coast offense, it seems to be working in a lot of different places. Are you, as someone who's seen a lot of profiles kind of come and go over the last 4 or 5 years, are you surprised at how much of a stronghold the West Coast offense has taken, not only on the West Coast but across the country?
No, not at all. I mean, I think anywhere you go, when you put the West Coast offense on anything, you're going to win. You just gotta be consistent and stay focused and keep on practicing.
Do you have a specific West Coast offense that you run? I mean, obviously, when talking with Steph and Sterling here on this show, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. There doesn't seem to be a standard formula on which rub to use on which meat. But how do you like to mix and match them?
Well, I mean, there's so many options to choose from. I mean, it comes down to the practice and what you feel comfortable with. But I'm not going to give too many details. But I know
brilliantly sidestepped.
Sweet seduction will always be in there, and pepper cow. I mean, Little Louie's, all that will definitely be in there. Money, sweet money, guaranteed into the rubs.
Do you find yourself changing up the profile at all if you get out of California, you go into Havasu or Arizona, I guess, or some of the other different regions, or are you consistent right along the lines no matter where you're at in the country?
Yeah, no, we've been pretty much using the same rubs for same style for about 2.5 years now.
Ryan Moore joining us here on the show from Knock Your Socks Off Barbecue. Ryan, how many events are you guys planning on cooking this season?
Probably 12 to 20. That's our goal.
And will you stay mostly on the West Coast, or will you stretch the legs out a little bit and try and get a little farther east or south or north?
Yeah, no, we plan on going to the Royal, and then we're going to go to Iowa. Probably hit up Colorado, and then California.
You said you're from Fontana, right?
Yeah, Fontana, California.
You a NASCAR guy? You going to take in the race when it gets down there in a couple weeks?
No, I'm not a NASCAR guy, unfortunately. So.
But if you change your mind, let me know. I can get you tickets. Believe it or not, I know a guy. So, in regards to your next contest, where are you guys going to be cooking at, right?
We'll be at Santa Anita racetrack. So it'll be right there in Santa Anita, or not Santa Anita, Arcadia, California, or something like Santa Anita, California.
Traditionally, at least over the last couple of years, that's another huge event. It's seen, I might be mistaken, but last year I think it was towards 100 teams. Are you anticipating a similar turnout for that event?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a very large event right here in Southern California, or in the West Coast, I should say.
And is that this coming week?
No, it's March 22nd, 23rd. I think it is.
So we got a couple weeks in time. So in between, do you do a lot of practice cooking, or will you back it off a little bit and rest up, or what's the game plan going into an event like that?
Yeah, usually on the weekdays we'll do we'll practice chicken, and then on the weekends we'll do the bigger meats and practice those. Same profile, everything. We don't change anything just to make sure our timing. And we always cook like it's a competition. So we'll put it on when we put it on, and we'll take it off, wrap it, do everything like it's a normal competition.
What kind of cooker you guys use on the team?
We use a Fire Magic for our pork, and then we use a Backwoods for our brisket and chicken.
All right. Well, you've stumped me here. I thought I've heard of every cooker imaginable. I guess I don't know what a Fire Magic cooker is.
Yeah, it's a gravity-fed smoker. They're made out here in the city of Industry, California, and they're a pork killer. If they haven't heard of them, they should grab one. They're a good product.
In regards to the meats, are you a team that is also kind of graduated up to the Wagyus and the specialized pork and the specialized chicken and the ribs, or do you kind of stay a little bit more mainstream or old school in that regard?
Oh yeah, we use. I guess the only thing special, it would be the Snake Rivers Farms briskets. We use those, but everything else it comes from Restaurant Depot, and then our chicken is just from Sam's Club.
And are you guys injectors of butts and briskets?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that something you've always done? Like back in the beginning, you start out injecting, or is that something that you've kind of worked into over the years?
Yeah, first we started making our own injections, and then we just went on to more commercial-based injections. It's a lot easier. In the long run, it saves you money.
Ryan Moore from Knock Your Socks Off Barbecue joining us here on the show. Ryan, do you guys, or have you ever taken barbecue cooking classes? And I guess because you've been in it so long and you've seen some success, do you give barbecue cooking classes as well?
No, I've done a few like rib classes for the California Barbecue Association, for charity. But as far as we did win the Warren County Pork Choppers class, but we never took it. And but yeah, we've never taken a class. When you have friends like Simply Marvelous, Left Coast Q, Loot and Booty, and Porterhouse, you don't really need to take a class because we're all family. We help each other out.
Ryan Moore is the pitmaster of Knock Your Socks Off Barbecue team. They won the grand champion at the Lake Havasu, Arizona contest this past weekend. Ryan, really appreciate the time tonight and the look back this past weekend. Thanks so much for doing it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
You got it. There he is. It's Ryan Moore, Knock Your Socks Off. Look at this guy. He's in, he's out, giving me concise answers as an interviewer. You run the fine line, right, of potentially getting a guest that becomes, incredibly enamored with the voice and what they're saying and oversharing. Ryan, to the point, succinct, giving good information. Obviously, still very excited about the win. Look, when you get into a contest that has 82 teams in it, it's not, I guess, as big as, the American Royal Open or this past weekend Houston Livestock and Rodeo, but 82 teams is huge. So getting the right amount of qualified judges that have experience, and of course, the table of death or the angel table is going to be brought up when you run into total amount of teams approaching this number up in, near 100. And you're going to be looking at a similar situation when you go a couple weeks to Santa Anita and do that contest as well. So you're doing something right when you are coming out on top of 81 other teams, and a large portion of those very heavy hitters. Congratulations, by the way, to Big Papa Smoker Sterling Ball on the reserve in Havasu. Good cook. 180 perfect brisket for Sterling Ball, by the way. If you're wondering, I bet he uses West Coast offense too, right? It's a guess. All right, coming up out of the break, we'll be talking with Mike Davis of Lotta Barbecue, recapping the Sam's Club. So we'll go from west to kind of southeast to Daphne, Alabama. So stay tuned for Mike Davis of Laudable Barbecue. All right, folks, let me talk to you quickly about Suckle Busters, award-winning barbecue rubs, sauces, chili kits, and Texas gunpowder. Suckle Busters products are preferred by competition barbecue cooks. Texas-based, 100%, made in the USA. Introduced first products to Barbecue Central over 7 years ago, if you can believe it. Won hundreds of industry awards, including 2 first place, the American Royal Barbecue Sauce Contest, the World Series of Barbecue Competitions, 2 years in a row. Used by backyarders like me and competition barbecue cooks like you across the country. How about some of the top-selling products? You got it. Original barbecue sauce. The original. Literally hundreds of industry awards. Honey barbecue sauce. Used as finishing glaze by many competition cooks. Hog Waller rub. #1 seller of rub. Perfect on competition pork and ribs. You have the competition barbecue rub. A traditional style. Very mild and savory. Excellent on beef. You have the Clucker Duster Barbecue Rub, Sweet Heat, Chipotle Chicken Rub. New products for 2015, glad you asked. Wild Fang Wild Game Rub, black pepper-based rub, also great on ribs. You got to try that. The SPG, premium blend of salt, pepper, and garlic. Bam Habanero Barbecue Rub, super hot, super sweet. Now, you might be asking yourself, you've given me the top-selling products. You've given me the new products for 2015. But where can I get Suckle Busters? How about available at over 300 retailers nationwide? Check your local barbecue shop. Retail locator on the Suckle Busters website. Check that out. Order online at sucklebusters.com. Check out a little website called Amazon.com, by the way. You can call them at 972-393-9509. That's 972-393-9509. You can email them at sales, plural, sales at sucklebusters.com. Check out their Facebook fan page, Suckle Busters, or visit their online message forum, thetexasbbqforum.com. Spell it out. Check them out and see why Dan Arnold and the folks over at Suckle Busters means bustin' with flavor. Sucklebusters.com. All right, we're back with Mike Davis of Laudable Barbecue. Thanks again to Ryan Moore of Knock Your Socks Off Barbecue for recapping the Lake Havasu event this past weekend in Arizona. Congratulations to him again on the GC, and a Sterling Ball for the reserve props Sterling, the darling of the barbecue community. And we're back with Mike Davis right after this. Stick around, be right back.
Get in the smoke. Call 877-448-0433 to get on the air. Now, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. 216-220-0966. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. My next guest has been doing the competition barbecue thing for as long as this show has been around, and then some. They've traveled far and wide, done a lot of winning in the process. Put in perspective, they currently have hauled in 91 grand championships, 62 reserves, and they have multiple grand champions at the American Royal, both invite and open. They were also Kansas City Barbecue Society Team of the Year in 2006. We see him on this show every once in a while. Let's go ahead and race back to the hotline and welcome back friend of the show, Pitmaster of Laudable Barbecue, Mike Davis, joining us here on the show. Mike, how are you, buddy? Yeah, I dialed the wrong number.
Get that big stuff out of here.
I sure did that. All right, here we go. I'll get him. Don't worry, I'll get him. I know. Right?
Oh, no! We suck again!
What I meant to say was let's head to the hotline and welcome back Pitmaster of Lotta Bull Barbecue, Mike Davis, to the show. Mike, how are you, bud?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing absolutely fabulous, Mike. Appreciate you asking. Sorry, I dialed the wrong phone number before I called you. Jeez. Had the big build-up and everything, named off all the awards, and then I go to crickets. But nevertheless, we got you back on the line. Mike, long time since we've chatted up the barbecue situation with you and Lotta Bull. How are you, for crying out loud?
Oh, we're doing good. We last year we had a few setbacks, some family issues that taxed us mentally, physically, spiritually, every way you could. But we got all that behind us. We got a new year started. Everything looks great.
So you're at the Sam's Club event in Daphne, Alabama this past weekend. And, of course, top six move on to the regional finals. I guess if you could, recap the event for us. We had last week's local on. Now we're 2 weeks in now to this 2015 Sam's Club Series. So I guess how was the cook in your estimation, and how did you find the event overall?
Oh, I think the events that Sam's has just keep getting better and better, and I think that everybody gets more comfortable with them. Michael McDermott did a great job organizing the event. Very clear and precise on what goes on, what doesn't go on. The judging was, we actually thought we turned in some pretty poor product. They scored well, and we were, of course, happy with that. But, it's just one of those things to get started in the first of the year, get your first one under your belt. But all in all, I think the Sam's event at Daphne was very well run, very well organized. I know some judges came a long way to judge, and I think some of the scores reflected that. I think they get a little more in tune with what we're doing instead of, I'm not going to the judge bashing thing, because I think they spend as much money sometimes getting these contests as we do. So making it happen, we couldn't do it without them. They couldn't do it without us, and I think it's all coming together.
Mike Davis joining us here, pitmaster of the Lotta Bull Barbecue team. Mike, when you look at the individual results this past weekend, chicken 21st, you said you kind of turned in some poor product, but I can't imagine you thought you had 21st place chicken. Something out of the ordinary go on with that, or just judges, or what?
No, that's exactly the same chicken we turned in when we finished the year last year. And got a first place with it. So I don't know what happened with that. Debbie said it was a little bit hot, but it was hot when it won it first, so I thought it was still good. So I don't know. It's just I think we got to personal preference. The texture of the meat, the appearance, everything was good. The moisture was there. It was just a little warm, and I guess maybe they didn't like it that way.
I just had Ryan Moore on, who won the Lake Havasu competition this past weekend out there in Arizona, and asked him, I want to ask you too, when it comes to chicken, and look, and you've been doing it much longer than Ryan has and a lot of other pitmasters out there, do you have the program down to the point where you don't taste after it comes off and you have everything ready to run out to the table, or do you still taste and make adjustments on the fly if needed?
Well, see, I never taste it.
Never.
My official taster is Debbie, so whatever she says goes. But she still takes that bite of everything right before we turn it in. But to tweak it at that point, we feel like we're just going to mess it up. We do it for our own self. We know whether it's a good product, whether it's a bad product. We don't, and I say we don't. We hardly ever change anything right last second.
The other three.
We've been doing it.
Yeah,
sorry.
No, I was going to say you've been doing it for so long. It's probably no reason to change at this point, right?
Right. Exactly.
The other three categories you do very well in. You get the 5th overall in ribs, 7th in pork, 9th in brisket. So 3 calls. I imagine they're calling top 10 overall. Were you worried as they're getting into the overall, because you don't hear chicken call? Are you worried where the chicken came in as it relates to making that top 6 to move on?
Well, I really didn't think about it at that point. When you got a 5, 7, 9, that chicken, it could have been 11, it could have been 30. I had just counted us out at that point to not move on.
Had you got seventh or below, would that have been a bigger disappointment because of the other three categories, or regardless, it's a punch in the gut?
No. I was prepared to accept that and go right on to the next one this weekend.
Mike Davis from Lotta Bull Barbecue joining us here on the show. Mike, I've asked a number of teams that do the first two rounds of Sam's what the mindset is going into one of these things. You need to get top 6 to move on in a local, top 10 to move on in a regional to go to the finals in Bentonville. Do you come into it with, I want to get within the range in order to move on, or is it, hey, I'm coming in to grand champion this SOB, and that's all I'm really looking to do?
Well, we always go into with the mindset of just to do the best we can. We never swinging for the fences. We're just trying to hit some little bloopers out there somewhere, so to speak. But if we can keep a consistent product, and we thought that's where we were this weekend, just kind of just enough to get in there. If we get lucky, we get a reserve or a grand, that's great. But if we can make the cutoff, that's even better. But, one of the things that we decided early on this year was to put the fun back into these cook-offs, because it's getting so commercialized and so much money involved that you find yourself getting lost in it. And you scramble trying to pick things up and forget what I did and what I do now. And for us this year, it's about putting the fun back in the barbecue again.
Mike, do you think that these corporate-sponsored series like Sam's has the potential to grow with other companies, or is this kind of a pretty tight niche, and there isn't going to be a lot of expansion in that regard?
I think the opportunity is there if you can just get the others to see the benefit from it. I think Sam's has really stepped out and made the investment to get everybody into this thing, and I think there's a lots of opportunity out there if we could just get them talked into. I'm not the guy to get them talked in, but somebody out there can make this happen.
Mike, let me ask you a question. You got into this deal in 1999. You've seen a lot of folks come and go. You've seen a lot of changes in process and meats and cookers. You name it, you've seen it. When you look back at when you first started with Debbie getting into the competition barbecue scene, what are some of the biggest changes or even surprises, in your opinion, that you've seen in the sport of barbecue over the years?
Well, without a doubt, it has to be the prize money and how much money is involved now. When we actually started doing it, of course, gasoline fuel prices were down cheaper. Meat costs were down. Everything is just skyrocketed so much that, where you were paying, you could go and buy a choice or a prime brisket for $2.70 a pound, and that was top of the line. And then the Wagyu come out, and, it went to, $3.80, $4 a pound. And now you're up with freight. You're up to $10 a pound to get a brisket now. So that's what surprises me more than anything is the amount of cost that's involved in this thing. It's just astronomical anymore. People say, they figure it costs you $1,000 a weekend to do that. That's probably on the cheap side. It's not uncommon for me to spend, depending on where we go, $600-700 a weekend just in fuel alone.
And that's before entry fees, meat, seasonings, all that.
That's before entry fee. That's before meat. That's before I go to the grocery store and buy anything.
You're already in $600 to $700.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Do you think that because of this rise in popularity of all these specialized meats, the comparts, the Wagyus, the free range, no steroid chicken raised on alfalfa and all this other stuff, have the pitmasters become so specialized that they've kind of driven cost up for themselves, and now there's other folks that want to get into it that are almost trapped in trying to keep up with the Joneses, if you will? Yeah,
I do see a lot of that. I think that's exactly right. Now I will have to give props to the people that raise the Wagyu beef, the Screw Branches, the Snake River Farms, and there's several more out there, not to exclude anyone. The same way with the Jim Compart and Compart Family Farms up in Minnesota. It's a superior product. It costs more money, but I think it's well worth the money. You can cook side by side with commodity type pork, and there's just no comparison. That doesn't mean that commodity pork won't beat you on any given day, but I still think if you're going to put that much money into it, you got to go for it and get the best product that you can to put in the box.
Mike Davis, Lotta Bull Barbecue, joining us here on the show. Mike, you still doing cooking classes and so forth?
We actually had retired from doing the cooking classes. We did one 2 weeks ago with Malcolm Reed of Killer Hogs over in Memphis, and had a great time. They're great folks to be around, and we kind of shagged off each other while we were doing the classes because we had never done one together. We've been friends a long time, but we'd never done a class together, and it was great having the ability to see what each other does. So, but yeah, we still would do one every now and then. They're just not planned out like they used to be. So,
Mike, let me ask you something. I've seen over the years you've been getting. It seems like almost a new smoker every year that you're taking out onto the circuit, and you got another new one this year.
Yeah.
Like, what's the process for you on these things? I would imagine that once you get to know one, it would be kind of like something you don't want to get rid of. But are you putting in a lot of your own suggestions and architecture and this kind of stuff, or are people just asking you, hey, we give you one and you troll it around and see what you think for a year, or how does that whole thing work out?
Well, let me kind of condense that for you just a little bit. We had one we used last year for the biggest part of the year, and it was a knockoff of another pit, and another guy had built it. And I really liked the pit, but he put some of his own design into the airflow design on it. And after that, I was approached by a couple of guys in Knoxville, Tennessee, to start building pits, to start a company. Well, this was a chance to form a partnership, not a sponsorship, but a partnership in building them. And we took the last 20 years worth of building and cooking on pits and integrated into one pit, which is now called Champion Smokers. And that's championsmokersandgrills.com. But it's a different kind of animal. I wish I could explain to you all the differences in it, but we don't have time to do that. But the last 20 years of my cooking has gone into to do the design of this pit. And if all goes well, this will be the last pit that I ever cook on.
Well, we can always have you back on for another segment, and we can talk about the ins and outs of the Champion Smokers by Mike Davis, for sure. Mike,
we could certainly do that.
Absolutely. Where are you guys going to be cooking at next?
We're at Smoking on the Square in Pensacola, Florida this weekend.
All right, so back-to-back competitions for
yes,
Mike and Debbie Davis, of course. Mike Davis is the pitmaster of Lotta Bull Barbecue, moving on to the regional final in the Sam's Club National Barbecue Series in South Haven, Mississippi in September, so a little space there between now and then, but you can catch him out on the barbecue trail. Mike, always great to catch up with you, man. Let's do it again sooner than later.
Sounds good. Always good to talk to you, Greg. Thanks
All right,
a bunch.
There he is, Mike Davis, Lotta Bull Barbecue. Look, if you don't know, it's like sometimes I'm amazed. I never know how history is chased by folks within the industry. If you don't know who Mike Davis is and you don't know his accomplishments and how he has helped develop the sport and increase popularity of the sport, you should take a few minutes on the interwebs and check out his website, lottabullbbq.com. He's got his own line of rubs and sauces and stuff like that. But what he has been able to rack up in the form of trophies and grand championships and sponsorships and, again, kind of blazing a trail that others probably can thank him part and parcel for in getting some of their own scholarship sponsorships and deals with meat makers and purveyors and so forth. Mike had a very large hand in pressing that out to everybody else there on the competition circuit. So great to catch up with him, and we'll have him back on, as I said, sooner than later, talk about Champion Smokers and Grills That website, by the way, if you want to check it out, championsmokersandgrills.com. All right, folks, public service announcement from my barbecue brother, Franco of Stephen DeFranco Jewelers. That's right. Just this past weekend, I was in-house. He has these rings. It's called the Rebecca rings. My wife happens to be Rebecca. So you know she's going to like it. Not overly expensive. Got a great barbecue brother price. So good, I got 2 rings. Not 1, but 2. You can do the same thing if you call them 440-943-2700 after you have visited the website StephenDeFranco.com. After you find what you like, give him a call. Ask for Steve, and he will help you pick out exactly what you need, exactly what you want. You're going to love it. You're going to save a lot of money. You're not going to be dealing with people just looking to line their pockets because they got overhead to cover. You're dealing with some sales slappy who's got a terrible suit off the rack at JCPenney. Not that there's anything wrong with JCPenney suits. He's just not wearing it right. And he's trying to talk you up into stuff you don't need. Steve's not into that. I mean, he wants you to get what you want. Stay within the budget that you're looking for because he wants you to come back again maybe in 2 or 3 or 4 months or 5 months or whatever, and then years later, maybe tell your kids about Stephen DeFranco Jr. StephenDeFranco.com, 440-943-2700. I get all my stuff from him. Love Steve. All right, we are back to wrap up the first hour. Maybe a few parting thoughts on the last 2 interview segments, and then we'll press to the second hour. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Network.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
Welcome back, 216-220-0966. Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. If you want to jump in on the show tonight, love to have you. Thanks again to Mike Davis from Lotta Bull Barbecue. LottaBullBBQ.com. Am I getting a little choppy? Ryan Moore joined me in the first interview segment at 9:14. If you missed him, don't sweat it. We got a podcast thing going on here. That's right. You can subscribe to the show through iTunes. You can hear Ryan's full interview. Likewise, if you've just tuned into the show, you're getting the tail end of the first hour. I mean, you're locked and loaded for the second hour. Feel good about that. Absolutely. But maybe you're a little bummed out because you meant to tune in for Mike Davis from Lotta Bull, but you missed it because you were too busy cutting the grass because it's hot out where you live. Well, forget it. You can get it on the replay. It'll be up in about 2 hours from now. And then the video will follow tomorrow, later morning, let's say it. Like that. If you have wanted to check out what's happening with Mike Davis, the best place to go, his website, Lotta Bull, L-O-T-T-A, LottaBullBBQ.com. You can check out what he has to offer there. Any cooking classes that he might have coming up, although he said they're a little bit more sparse, not as regimented. He's got rubs and sauces there that you can buy. If you're looking to sponsor a team, that's one that you can get behind as well. Send him a message. I'm sure he'll go ahead and get back in touch with you. And then, like I said, we'll have him back on here after a little bit and talk about the Champion Smokers and Grills. Big weekend this past in the world of competition barbecue. We're going to be talking about that at the top of the second hour. We'll get you caught up where the KCBS top 10 is, or the top 5, sorry, for Team of the Year. We will talk and get caught up with the Florida Barbecue Association Team of the Year status. We'll give you the overall recap of the Sam's Club out of Daphne, Alabama. We'll also talk about Stop the Insanity. Barbecue pitmasters told to take down American flags. What? Oh, my. It can't be. We'll talk about it. All right. I am going to step away and refresh a libation. I would suggest that you do the same, and then we'll be locked and loaded for the second hour. I am Greg Rempe. I am your host. You are watching and listening to the Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Networks. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This is Jim Minion from Two Loose Screws. I'm listening to Barbecue Central.
From my heart and from my hand, why don't people understand my intention?
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan. So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish, what?
He ate 54 wieners.
But listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Who? Top men.
All right, just like that, we are into the second hour. Welcome to the Barbecue Central show. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. This is the show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling. We do this show each and every Tuesday from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. Yeah. TheBBQCentralShow.com is the website. 216-220-0966 is the phone number. Greg at TheBBQCentralShow.com is the email address. Those are the ways you can get in contact with the show tonight in any form that you see fit. John Dawson of Patio Daddy-O Barbecue weighing in a better Sucklebusters tagline just for Barbecue Central. Sucklebusters busting with succulent flavor. Yeah. Not bad, John. Jason King sent me pictures because I said, hey, who's grilling out there, for crying out loud? In the cold weather. He's like, yeah, me. I am. Oh, yeah? Yeah, he is. Wow, look at that. That, my friends, is succulent. Let me show you the next one if I blow that up. Oh, my Lord. Look at this thing. It's like a steak bacon burger. Look at that. Oh, crispy bacon on top. Looks like there might be bacon on the bottom. You got beef right here. Is there mushrooms on it? Onions? I don't like onions.
Get that freak stuff out of here.
I don't. I've just never been a fan of onions. And I want to like onions. I really do. But unless they are heartily griddled and browned, and only if they're Vidalia will I start to partake in those. But never a raw onion. Never a raw onion. Ever. Never, ever. Gross. All right. What? Oh, no. There we go. Still to come on the show tonight, Doug Scheiding from Rogue Cookers and Darren Warth from Iowa Smokey D's to talk about the Houston Livestock and Rodeo and the associated barbecue cook-off. The 2015 Sam's Club Series, as we know, rolled into Daphne, Alabama this past weekend. This was a local qualifier sending the top 6 teams to the regional final that will take place at South Haven, Mississippi on September 9th. Those 6 teams moving on are as follows. Winner, grand champion, the most winningest man in barbecue history, Myron Mixon, and Jack's Old South comes out with the grand championship, 693.63. I don't even know if a close second even begins to talk about how close this was. This is almost like 1A and 1B. But reserve champ nonetheless, Red Eye Smokers. Congratulations. So once again, Jack's Old South wins it with a 693.63. Red Eye Smokers takes 693.61. 2 100ths of a point. Whoa! That's 2 decimal places taken out to get a winner. Kewin, Stewin, and Bruin takes 3rd. Smoke on this takes 4th. The Blue Bloods is 5th. And, of course, we know rounding out the top 6 and moving on to South Haven, Mississippi, Mike Davis and Debbie Davis Lotta Bowl Barbecue. The span of points between winning and 6th place, 6 points. 6.3 points. 5, yeah, roundabout. So, that's fun. That's exciting. Team of the Year standings, and unfortunately, FBA not too diligent on the updates. Sorry.
Get that freak stuff out of here.
At last count, Hot Wachulas, number 1. Sweet Smoke Q, number 2. Blitzkrieg Barbecue, number 3. Big Papa Country's Kitchen, number 4. Cedar Creek Barbecue, number 5. If those are inaccurate, don't blame me.
Get that freak stuff out of here.
I'm only telling you what they're telling me. KCBS Top 5 Team of the Year currently sitting atop the KCBS Team of the Year leaderboard on March 3rd. They won the Sam's Club local Jack's Old South at 565 points. An IPC team currently sitting in 2nd place, Rub Bagby Swamp Boys Barbecue. Travis Clark is in 3rd place with the Clark Crew Barbecue Team. Hickory Prime is 4th, and Matt Barber and Hot Wachulas is still dueling in both of Team of the Year races, sitting atop FBA and top 5 for KCBS Team of the Year. But, of course, we have a long, long road to go. And given the fact that most KCBS contests are not near Florida, it's going to be tough for Matt to probably hold on and finish top 5. But, boy, that would be some sort. I would still love him to win both, if at all possible. But as we know, Florida Barbecue Association does require that you cook a lot and don't take the average of 10 or your 10 best or, however KCBS does. So that makes it a little more difficult. Maybe if he had billions and had a couple private jets, he could go ahead and possibly get it done. But, I mean, who's got that kind of cash? So I don't know if anybody saw this. This was posted on my website or my Facebook page a little bit earlier this evening. This is from foxnews.com, so a reputable news outlet by Todd Starnes. This was published today. Stop the insanity is the headline. Barbecue pitmasters told to take down American flags. Not Barbecue Pitmasters, the show, but barbecue cooks told to take down American flags. And it goes on to say, nothing says America quite like smoking a pork butt and flying Old Glory. The sport of professional barbecue is extremely American and family-oriented, said Pitmaster Jeff. I am not going to get your name right, and that's for sure. So you can imagine Jeff's extreme displeasure when organizers of an Alabama barbecue competition ordered him, along with other competitors, to take down the American flag hanging from their barbecue trailers. It happened this past weekend at the Sam's Club National Barbecue Competition in Daphne, Alabama, sponsored by the Kansas City Barbecue Society. Jeff is the founder of Give It to God Competition Barbecue Team, a professional barbecue team that smokes meat and shares the love of Jesus. Both are noble missions. Last Friday, Jeff rolled into town with his barbecue trailer and promptly hoisted Old Glory. Not too long after, one of the organizers of the event told Jeff to take the flag down. There were 6 or 8 of us that had flags flying, Jeff said. He went to each camp, told them to take the flag down. The first rule of barbecue was low and slow, but the temperature started rising after Jeff complied with the directive. The whole time I'm thinking, the reason I fly the flag is because I love America. I love what it stands for. It's a way to say our current and former troops, thank you. So Jeff had a change of heart and decided to raise Old Glory as an act of defiance. It was a matter of saying there are things more important than a barbecue competition. If they want to kick me out, I'll leave. Jeff was not kicked out, and he was not asked to take the flag down. As a matter of fact, after he re-raised the flag, another competitor followed suit. So why were the patriotic pitmasters told to take down the flags? Jeff said that they were told by event organizers that flags validated a city ordinance in Daphne, but that allegedly turned out to be false. No one from the city advised or asked anyone to take any flags down of any type. Mayor Dan Haygood told me, we're proudly and boldly displaying American flags, and we encourage everyone in the community to do the same. It turns out the order to remove the flags came from the tour director of the Kansas City Barbecue Society. As a measure of precaution, we asked everyone to take down any kind of sign, any kind of flag that were being displayed, spokesman Mike McLeod told me. It turned out that some of those happened to be American flags. Several years ago, Mike McLeod said there had been a similar issue with Daphne and that there was some official request made to take them down. If you want to read more about that, you can check it out at foxnews.com. McLeod said after they further investigated the local ordinance, they eventually told the pitmasters they could fly their flags. So they investigated the local ordinance even through the city maintains. There is no local ordinance banning the flying of American flags. Who's flying American flags at the barbecue competitions? You go right ahead. This show is allowing it. Folks, if you didn't know, Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop shop online for anyone interested in barbecue, featuring the #1 dealer of Mac pellet grills in the world. Big Papa Smokers features a wide selection of American-made grills and smokers, such as the Old Hickory Ace BP, Gateway drum smoker, and even a drum kit that gives you everything you need to make a world-class smoker out of a 55-gallon drum. Big Papa Smokers has also made a name for itself in recent years by crafting award-winning lines of championship rubs. From sweet money to happy ending, their rubs have had a hand in winning almost every major barbecue competition, including the 2012 and 13 American Royal, the World Series of Barbecue, 2012 and 14 Jack Daniels Invitational, the 2013 Kingsford Challenge, 2014 Houston Livestock and Rodeo, Reserve Grand at the Houston Livestock and Rodeo this year, 2014 King of the Smoke. Don't think BPS can be pigeonholed into competitive barbecue either. BPS rubs have become so well known they've been picked up by a nationwide restaurant chain, BJ's Restaurant and Brew House. 4 of the 9 BPS rubs featured on their permanent menu. Amid glowing reviews, BPS rubs are proven to be a great addition to anyone's pantry. Big Papa's has also banded together with fellow California-based barbecue rub company Simply Marvelous Barbecue to form what has now become the West Coast offense. Defying conventional wisdom, these two California-based rub makers have cornered the market on competitive barbecue and begun to redefine the flavor profiles that competition cooks from across the country have begun to aim for. Big Papa's website also features an online meat locker with top-quality meats from Snake River Farms shipped to your front door. From American Kobe beef, Caribou pork, Double R ranch meats, Big Papa Smokers Meat Locker has something for every type of barbecue aficionado, and they're committed to bringing you the best flavors on the market. They've recently added Granny's barbecue sauce, Swamp Boys sauce, a fine swine sauce. These are the hot new sauces, considered to be the new kids on the block this season. BPS also created a unique brand ambassador program called the BPS Elite Team, featuring 15 of the best competition teams in the country working together to promote camaraderie, competition barbecue, and it benefits children's charities across the U.S. Keep in mind, Big Papa Smokers has been able to do all this in only the 5 years of being in business, turning the competition barbecue world on its head, providing customers with the very best barbecue products, becoming a staple of a nationwide restaurant chain, and benefiting children's charities across the U.S. It's just the beginning. For Big Papa Smokers, the website, of course, bigpapasmokers.com, and we are back with Doug Scheiding right after this, talk a little Houston livestock and rodeo. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Radio Network studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, we are back, 216-220-0966. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. Folks, as I said, this past weekend, a rather large barbecue contest took place in Houston, Texas. One of the many looked to enter and win during the course of a competition career. My next guest tonight won it this past weekend and has the belt buckle to prove it. Here to recap the event, the win, the pitmaster of Rogue Cookers, Doug Scheiding, joining me here on the show. Doug, how are you, man?
I'm doing fine, Greg. How are you?
Doing absolutely fabulous, Doug. Appreciate you making time for the show tonight. I know I kind of caught you on the road, and you might be pulled over for safety reasons, so I appreciate you carving out some time to talk about this past weekend and the Texas Livestock and Rodeo Barbecue Cook-Off. Doug, before we get into that, maybe a little background about yourself and how you got into the competition barbecue world.
Well, actually, I might lose a few points on my man card, but I watched the Food Network show, and I like the chef Aaron McCargo, and he had a recipe with using Coke and to break down his ribs, and so that got me interested in actually cooking, because my motto used to be before I got into barbecue, if it took longer to make than eat, it wasn't worth the time, and obviously I've gone all the other way, so got into kind of cooking that way, and one of my neighbors asked me to cook a charity event, and saw a barbecue show on TV happen to that weekend, and decided to go ahead and try this competition barbecue thing out.
Doug, you said when we were kind of corresponding back and forth, I don't know if you were with another team before or not, but you went off your own about a year and a half ago and formed Rogue Cookers. Of course, I'm always endlessly fascinated by team names. How did you come up with that one? Was there a huge argument and you decided to go rogue on your own and that's where it is, or is it not necessarily as cool as that?
Well, it's kind of that way. I cooked with Flameworthy Barbecue, and Clint Swindoll was my partner, and we're both Type A personalities. We cooked for about 4 years together, and I'm actually an engineer by education and job for about 20 years, and we always like to improve things, and so I was always tweaking things, or as he said, making rogue decisions, and so decided to break off and go on my own, and my wife said, well, that's your team name, Rogue Cookers.
Well, I like that story even better than the one that I said, for crying out loud. That's great. Rarely do they have such great backstories, but this one lives up to it for sure. So do you guys kind of look to match up against each other weekend in, weekend out, or is it still kind of friendly rivalry, or how does that work out?
Oh yeah, it's pretty friendly, but yeah, we're always doing rooting for each other and hoping the other one does well. So we see each other on several competitions each year.
Doug Scheiding joining me here on the show, pitmaster of Rogue Cookers. Doug, if you could, as we kind of transition over to the recap of the event this past weekend,
sure.
But for the folks that don't know, I mean, obviously, if you listen to the show, there is a lot of KCBS stuff and Florida Barbecue Association. We get a little MBN stuff here and there. Very small amount of IBCA. What's the Houston Livestock and Rodeo event like? How does the barbecue event fit into this whole thing? And kind of give us the format of how it scored to get an overall champion.
Okay, sure. Yeah, actually, I think maybe I'm mistaken on this. It's not a sanctioned event, so it's not run like typical Texas barbecue cook-offs. Whether it's, and that's part of the issue with Texas is we've got so many organizations that have kind of splintered off. We've got IBCA and Texas Gulf Coast and Lone Star Barbecue Society, but it's a unique competition because typically in Texas you have chicken ribs and brisket, and you get points for finishing only in the top 10. And if you finish 11th through 100, you don't get any points, and that just doesn't count. So the Houston Rodeo, what they do is they have so many entries. It's like 412 this year, so it was the largest ever. You have to pick a category: chicken, ribs, or brisket. Unless you're like a champion, like Darren was from the Jack, you get to pick all three. But so I actually chose chicken this year, and what they do is they have a first turn-in, and they only have a single round, kind of like the KCBS scoring, where you're judged on that single table, and they pick the top 8 from each category: chicken, ribs, and brisket. And so this year there were only 92 chicken entries, so we finished in the top 8, obviously, and there were another 8 rib, and then another 8 brisket. And so then they have a second turn-in, which you actually have to kind of cook for in anticipation of making the finals. And then from those 24, they have another round of judging, and it starts over, and then they rank those 24 within each category, but then overall competing against each other.
Wow, it sounds incredibly intense. So for everybody that is... So you have to pick one meat, and that's the one you're going with. You're bringing to the dance, and then you're going to cook it twice, and you turn it in the first time, and then everybody out of those 412 teams starts cooking again in hopes that they get the call as they're cooking. What about all those other teams that got to shut it down after they've been told they haven't made the final? That's kind of a kick in the balls, isn't it?
Exactly. That happened to me last year. We were 16th in brisket, so obviously we didn't make the top 8, and truthfully, this year I thought we didn't make the finals again because the first turn-in was at 2:30 for me, and then they had said that my second turn-in was going to be at 4:30. Well, at the Houston Rodeo, and I like this, they actually tagged the meat, so I only had 2 chickens, and so I told them, okay, I'll cook one at 2:30, and then I'll have the next one done at 4:30. And she goes, well, what if you mess it up? I said, oh, I won't mess it up. It'll be okay. And so I cooked my second chicken, and other people I know had been, they can't come by with cowbells and, 15 people, and they say you made the finals. And so 4:20, 4:30 came by. My chicken was ready. And 4:40, I was like, okay, we didn't make the finals. I was pretty dejected. And I was actually also cooking for the party or buffet that night, so I was cooking for about 150 people, so I was pretty busy. So luckily I didn't cut into the second chicken, and I decided, well, I'll just kind of wrap it up and put it in a hot box and just keep it for a while. And so I was slicing brisket for the buffet, and at 5 o'clock they came and said, you made the finals. And I'm like, what? You got to be kidding me. You were supposed to be here. And they said, no, you made the finals. You've got 3 minutes to get your turn-in in. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. So 3 of us pulled out my chicken, and we actually nicked one of the thighs, and so we wound up turning half of one half and then half the breast of the other one, and then we ran to turn it in, and so we actually just barely made it. So with a little bit of luck, because normally you'd kind of cut into the chicken to see how it tasted.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess it's not a requirement to have an attached half chicken turn in. You can separate?
You have to separate with the judge there. So what I did is, in one of your favorite words, I spatchcocked my chicken.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Exactly. And you can't turn in the wing because I had the wing with the metal clip, and so I just turned in the other breast and the thigh and the leg from the one that was marked. But you have to cut in front of the judge. They have to see you cut that piece of meat.
My burning question is, you have ribs, you have brisket to go up against, and chicken wins the Houston Livestock and Rodeo. So what goes into winning on top of 400-plus other teams in your chicken recipe?
Well, to your credit, I actually use a rub that I learned about. I'm an avid podcast listener of your show for 4 or 5 years, and so I use a rub that I learned about in your show, and then I use, Craig Sherry of Texas Pepper Jelly. Yep. I use his barbecue sauce as part of my glaze, and I trust my butcher.
Absolutely. I trust him too, by the way.
Sponsor of the show, yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Are you, when I talk with the folks at Memphis Barbecue when they do the Memphis in May, and Whole Hog wins it, I'm always like, well, yeah, I mean, of course Whole Hog wins it. It seems like it's way more painstaking and more difficult to do than ribs or shoulder. But then when a shoulder or ribs wins it, I'm like, man, I mean, those must have been so good to get over the top of Whole Hog, and it's a long way to go here. I apologize, Doug. But when chicken beats, ribs, or for Texas's sake, brisket at a Texas Houston Livestock and Rodeo barbecue event, does that just go to show how good your chicken was?
Well, I can't necessarily take all the credit for that, but going back, you'd think Houston Livestock and Rodeo show that brisket is king down here and brisket would win, et cetera. But in actuality, I believe the top 3 finishers this year, and Darren Warth, who you're going to talk to, I believe he cooked chicken. Tuffy cooked chicken. But the top 3 places were chicken. Wow. And now 3 out of the last 4 years, chicken has won, believe it or not. And 2 years ago, when ribs won, that was across the track cooking team. I wasn't the cook back then, but they actually won 2 years ago with a different cook.
All right, so that was going to be my next question. Doug Scheiding joining us here on the show. He's the pitmaster of Row Cookers, but you mentioned Across the Tracks barbecue team, and that's the team that you actually cooked for this past weekend, and you've done some other, hired gun work for them at Jack Daniel's last year. So how does that relationship come to be? They know you're a good cook, and they're not cooks, or they know you're a better cook than them, or what's that whole dynamic like?
Well, Houston, I think you had someone from the American Royal that, said, the Royal and Houston are the 2 biggest parties. And my wife calls the Houston Rodeo kind of rodeo gras, because it's a big party, and, there's also a competition that happens to be with it. So, it's just a fun event to cook with. I actually met Kerry because when he won, Kerry Fellows, who's the team captain, he's basically the manager of the whole party and the buffet and selling tickets, because it costs like $50 a head to get in the tent for the buffet and the drinks. And so he's more the team captain, team manager, and organizes that whole thing. When they won 2 years ago, Houston has a reciprocity with the Jack and American Royal and also the San Antonio Rodeo. So he happened to be set up beside us because, the Houston, you only turn in 1. He had only cooked that event and then never cooked an event where you turn in chicken, ribs, and brisket. So he came over just to kind of check it out, and he was in the space next to us. Literally has a card table, folding chair, and a cooler, and he's there just to kind of check it out. And so what I did is I just started feeding him food, and just to be nice, and because he was there by himself. And lo and behold, we kind of started talking, and that year I was lucky enough to get second place brisket at the San Antonio Rodeo and 16th chicken, and wound up finishing 4th place overall. And so he knew I could kind of cook, and when his team split up and he didn't have a cook, he actually called me on the Monday of the weekend before the Jack Daniels and said, "Hey, Doug, this is Kerry. I've got a favor to ask you, and wanted to know if you cooked the Jack Daniels for me." And I said, "Well, when is it?" And he goes, "This weekend." And I said, "This weekend?" And so it was, I picked him up on Thursday, and it was 80 hours of just crazy, intense fun, and one of the best things I've ever done. It was actually, so from there we had quite a trip to the Jack. People actually thought, because back then I was cooking on UDSs, or ugly drum smokers, and people came up to us thinking we were in the backyard part of the cook and not the invitational.
How did you guys finish up with the Jack that year?
We finished up about 50th or so that year, and but one of the things I learned, in Texas, we're all about the big cooks, and when I was with my partner, we used to cook on a gator pit, and so we're all about the wood burners. But at the Jack, there were so many pellet cookers, and I have a trailer that's a portable kitchen that I built out, and so I said, well, I'm going to give these pellet cookers a try, and so I started using that about a little over a year ago, and as Darren, when I told Darren what I cooked on, he goes, maybe I should think about giving up competition barbecue if I got beat by a pellet cooker.
Doug Scheiding joining us here on the show, pitmaster of Rogue Cookers and cooking for Across the Tracks barbecue team. When you do the hired gun stuff, Doug, is there any monetary compensation for you, or is it just kind of doing it as a friend because somebody's asking?
Oh yeah, no, I just did it as a friend, and I love to compete. Actually, for the Houston, there's a waiting list to get in, and I think it costs thousands of dollars to actually have an entry into the Houston Rodeo. So I didn't have, it's just like Ernest Cervantes was there, and he was the cook for Pitmaker and several other of my friends. So these large corporate sponsors have the booths, and so then they have other cooks come in and cook for them. So it's not too unusual at the Houston Rodeo, I'd say.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, Doug, was the fact that I've heard through rumors and otherwise that it's very hard to gain entry into that contest. And, almost it seems like it's like those rib burner circuits where they're almost willed down from generation to generation. Is it that hard to get in, or is it just the fact that it's huge cash to get an entry?
No, it is kind of that way, because Kerry was on the Houston Rodeo committee, for the actual rodeo, and so that's how there was an opening that came up, and so he, as I understand it, bought the rights to have the entry, and he's been cooking it now 14 years in a row.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and so he's, and I was actually, we got to ride in at the grand opening of the Houston Rodeo tonight, and so I was talking to his daughter, and so just like you say, they're going to take it over in a few years when he's tired and doesn't want to manage the team and all the details that go in with a party that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and probably 500, feeding 500 people.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Doug, as far as Rogue Cookers is concerned, you primarily IBCA, or do you stretch out and get into a bunch of other sanctioning bodies?
Yeah, I've only, the Jack Daniels was the only KCBS that I cooked, and that was actually pretty fun. I like the scoring of the KCBS better than Texas, and I cook. I'm a life member of IBCA now, and I'm a member of Texas Gulf Coast and Lone Star Barbecue Society. So I really kind of pick my events. I cooked some of the larger ones, like Western, when Western Wood had that big series where they were paying $30,000 per cook-off. I did all those, and I do about 10 a year, and it's really more about convenience of weekends and things like that. So, but I try to cook some of the big ones just to have fun, because I like to compete.
Doug Scheiding is the pitmaster for Rogue Cookers. Doug, do you have a website or anything, social media-wise, you like to put out in case people want to find out a little bit more about you?
No, I have a Facebook page, and people can find me there, and Rogue Cookers. on Facebook, and that's pretty much how I do my communication.
All right, as I mentioned, Doug is the pitmaster of Row Cookers this past weekend, part of the team that won the Houston Livestock and Rodeo Barbecue Cook-Off. That was Across the Tracks Barbecue for the team that he cooked with. Doug, really appreciate the time tonight, the insight to look back, and really brought some great energy, which I certainly appreciate as the host. So thanks so much for doing it.
Absolutely, and I appreciate what you do because I've learned a lot of things listening to your show, the round tables, and all the other guests and things. So you're a big part of where I am today.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
You bet.
There he
Thanks,
is.
Greg. Appreciate it. My pleasure.
Doug Scheiding from Rogue Cookers. First time on, I can tell you what, that guy has a rap about him and is bringing great energy. Look, what do I always say? Is I guess you could be the most thought out, well-versed, accurate guest ever. But if you're bringing the deadpan, worst guest ever. You talk with energy and excitement, and you're bringing a take on something, even if it's, people don't agree with it, or maybe it's not even right. If you're talking like, yeah, man, I believe it. You hear the excitement in Doug's voice? I mean, that guy, he's a good interview. Looking forward to having him back on again. Darren Warth coming up out of the break. First, I'm going to tell you about the longest-running sponsor of the show, the Barbecue Guru. If you're not familiar with how these little beauties work, I'm not going to get into the minutia, but imagine a product that allows you to set your pit temperature. In one set, it keeps it running all the way. Let me try again. One set, it keeps it running at that set temperature all the way through the cook. Sound too good to be true? It's not. It's real life. You can take advantage of this technology today. Maybe you're a busy working professional, or perhaps you are constantly on the run with kids doing errands, and quite frankly, you just don't have the time to sit around and tend pit temperatures. The Guru allows you to throw on a pork butt or a brisket or a couple slabs of ribs, and you're off to do whatever it is you need to get done. The Guru maintains that pit temperature you set it at. There's currently a number of different models to choose from. Of course, we talk about the two most popular items. The least expensive point of entry into automatic pit temperature control devices is the Party Q, $149. Fits on a majority of cookers, to include the ceramics, the bullet styles, the kettle styles, the ugly drum smokers. It's a self-contained package that runs on AA batteries and literally can go from cooker to cooker to cooker. If you're a little bit more into the Wi-Fi stuff, multiple probes, and a lot of customization, CyberQ Wi-Fi tearing up the backyards and the competition circuits. Figure out which one is best for you and visit their website. Now, if you're in the market for a cooker, look no further than the Onyx Oven. The Onyx Oven has been winning on the competition circuit for years now. Also in the backyards all over the country. It's fully insulated, holds a ton of meat. Accommodates half and full pans for food service and works seamlessly with any Guru pit temperature control device. Do yourself a favor, head on over to thebbqguru.com and check out their products. If you have any questions about what to order, call them directly. 800-288-GURU. They will make sure you're outfitted with exactly what you need to get you up and running right out of the box. thebbqguru.com or call 800-288-GURU. The Barbecue Guru is a breakthrough in barbecue technology. Darren Warth out of the break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, we are back. 216-220-0966. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. Helping me close the show tonight is the pitmaster of one of the hottest teams on the competition circuit over the past few years. He was also down at the Houston Livestock and Rodeo Barbecue event this past weekend, taking Reserve Grand Championship honors. Let's go ahead and race to the hotline and welcome back friend of this show and pitmaster of Iowa's Smokey D's, Darren Warth, joins me. Darren, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, Greg. How are you?
Doing absolutely fabulous, Darren. Appreciate you carving out some time for us to take a look back at the Texas jaunt that you and Sherry were on this past weekend. Are you still there, or did you retreat back to Sub-Zero, Iowa, or are you in Arizona, or where we find you tonight?
We actually moved farther east to Pensacola, Florida.
Really?
Yeah, we didn't. I didn't really feel like bringing the big trailer back up north, and we're going to be cooking ham in Louisiana in about 3 weeks. So I said, and we're cooking the Sam's Club out in Tucson, Arizona here in a couple of weeks. So I didn't really want to go into the Sam's Club without having cooked a KCBS contest this year. So we wanted to cook this weekend. So we took it to Pensacola, and we're going to fly home from here and leave the rig here, and then fly back in about 3 weeks and grab the rig and head west to Hammond, Louisiana.
Sounds like a logistical plan is well established. Darren Warth joining me here on the show from Iowa Smokey D's. Darren, all right, let's take a quick look back at this past weekend. Is this your first time cooking Houston livestock and rodeo?
No, we actually got to cook it last year. We got invited. The Houston Livestock, the committee has a reciprocity agreement with some major contests like the American Royal and the Jack, and also the San Antonio Cook-Off, where they put you on Champions Corner. They treat you like royalty, and they give you the opportunity to cook all three categories. Well, so by winning the American Royal in 2013, we were invited to cook last year. And then when we won the Jack last year, we got invited to cook this year.
How do you find the event? I mean, obviously, it's a little outside of the box of what you and Sherry usually cook. I mean, you've had one under your belt, so it's not alien to you. But, how does it compare and contrast to what you're typically doing?
Well, from an overall event standpoint, people ask me about what's Houston like, and I'm going, it's like the American Royal Dark Side on steroids. It's huge parties. I mean, we walked up. I mean, there's 60,000 people on Thursday, 70,000, 80,000 people on Saturday at this event. And I went up to buy a couple cases of beer on Friday morning. I was talking to the vice chairman of the alcohol committee, and he said they had already, by Friday morning, they had already sold 30,000 cases of beer.
Wow. So people are getting ready to partake in a little libations.
Yeah, it's definitely a big party. A little different for us on the, cooking the half chickens. Ribs and brisket are pretty much the same, but, the half chicken, of course, is the biggest challenge.
Because of the amount of bodies and partying and so forth, I mean, is there at all a bit of trouble dealing with your cook and stuff, or I mean, are you pretty insulated from all the goings on with the other people and so forth?
They actually, on Champions Corner, and most booths are this way too. You're kind of all fenced off, very professionally done. So we really didn't have to deal with. I mean, we dealt with the public, but we had open spots with me and Tuffy and Jamie and Ernest. That people had to get invited to come into our place. It wasn't like everybody was just walking through the middle. Our biggest issue this year was we were probably 100 yards off the main stage. So we dealt with very, very, very loud music the entire time.
Darren Warth joining me from Iowa Smokey D's, talking about the Houston Livestock and Rodeo, and they're ended up a reserve grand champ at this event. So you get to cook all three. I was talking to Doug Schmelting just a segment ago. He just cooked chicken. You can obviously pick, for those that aren't able to cook all three, you have to choose, almost like the Memphis in May. You got to choose ribs or pork butt or whole hog. But this is chicken, brisket, and ribs. Were you overall satisfied with all three turn-ins? Were you surprised that the chicken is the one that got you to where you got? How did you find your turn-in specifically?
No, the chicken was really the only one that had the chance. I thought the chicken was really good for the first turn-in. Like, I was listening in, and Doug said how you staged the second cook. So chicken went really well. My ribs, I had a little bit of a mathematical error. I'm not one to write things down. I don't. I go the entire KCBS year without writing down a recipe or writing down a timeline. We do it so many times that I've just never done that. Well, I was sitting down, since it was Houston, I was sitting down kind of making my timeline out on Friday afternoon, and I decided with ribs that it's like, okay, yeah, ribs, mine are usually done in 3 hours and 15 minutes. I'm going to give it 4 hours just because I want to make sure they're done. And I went through and I said, okay, my turn in for ribs was at 1:30. I'm going to back it up 4 hours and put on my ribs. Well, I'm watching Tuffy and Jamie and stuff, and they're putting on their ribs, and they're staggered, so they're 15 minutes ahead of me, and one of them's a half hour ahead of me. They're putting on their ribs. I'm going, what are you putting on your ribs for? You know, and I go through, and all of a sudden I check their ribs, and they're not done. I'm going, what's going on? And so I've got them up on the microwave shelf in the Jambo, and I've got my Gateway can there cranked up to 350 degrees, and I'm trying to get these ribs done. I couldn't figure out why. Well, you know, if I really would have thought about it, usually I allow 5 hours before turn in, not 4 hours. So I was an hour behind. So ribs didn't, you know, I got them to the point they were done, but I didn't get them to the point where I wanted them. And brisket, for some reason, I did the same thing that I've done for the last 2 years in brisket, but I just could not get any flavor out of this brisket. We sliced into it, took a bite of it. There was no beefiness, no saltiness, just nothing. You know, it was just blah. So I'm taking this around to like Tuffy Stone saying, hey, what do you think of this? And he's going, it's a little flat, you know, and everybody, we just couldn't get any flavor out of it for some reason. I have no idea why, but chicken ended up being very good.
Doug had mentioned that 3 out of the last 4 years, chicken has won the Houston Livestock and Rodeo. Traditionally, you think of Texas being, you know, brisket is king, and I guess I was a little taken aback that that isn't the one that would traditionally win it. Are you surprised that 3 out of the last 4 years, chicken is a winner versus the ribs or the brisket?
You know, it's kind of the judging is a lot different, because if I'm a judge sitting at a table, you know, where KCBS, all the chicken comes in and then all the ribs come in and so forth. Not really the case here, you know. So, I mean, I may be a judge sitting at a table, and all of a sudden my first entry is a rib, and my second entry is chicken, and my third entry is chicken, and my fourth entry might be brisket, and it's back and forth. So they're just really judging barbecue, you know, which is kind of good, because there's, you know, in KCBS, sometimes we wonder, are the judges comparing stuff, and there's really not a comparison factor when you kind of shake things up like that.
Is this kind of like a crowd favorite type judging? I mean, these aren't, or are they certified at all? Like you would find it at a KCBS?
Not certified. I think people sign up. You know, a normal IBCA cook-off, I think they just grab people off the street and off they go. I think this was maybe a little bit more organized. Still people off the street, really no training. You know, I'm sure some of them have judged a lot, but when you get to the finals table, then those people are kind of invited to judge at the finals.
So this is a little out of the realm of what you're used to. I mean, you're typically offering the flavor profiles that you put out because you kind of know what the judges like, or you've seen success at KCBS contests, and judges are trained, or they're supposed to be trained, and they know how to evaluate food and flavor and so forth. And when you're grabbing people off the street, do you have any thought whatsoever about changing up and making it a little bit more mainstream versus what you would normally do at a contest, or you just keep it the same no matter who's going to eat it?
It's the same. We virtually cook the same recipes. I did make one tweak on a sauce and chicken, but other than that, I mean, and that's kind of how we cook KCBS. We kind of cook mainstream. You know, I mean, it's not. We don't want anything that's too spicy. We don't want anything that's too sweet, too sour, too. You know, we really don't want that. We just want good, solid barbecue. We don't want to offend anybody, and the best way not to offend them is just kind of go middle of the road.
Darren Warth from Iowa Smokey D's joining me here on the show. Darren, you said you were going to kind of stay south and east and shoot back west a little bit. Have you made any adjustments in flavors or techniques or meat purveyors or anything like that between end of the season last year and as you start to gear up for this season?
No, really, to tell you the truth, you know, since we got done and won the King of the Smoker, really a week before Houston, I cooked some chickens. Other than that, I really haven't cooked at all. I'm not a big practice guy. I just, for some reason, just can't find the time to do it, and I really don't like to practice. we're just shooting with the same stuff. We really haven't changed much in the last 2 years, and we've been very successful out on the circuit. So we're just kind of going in with the same, the same West Coast offense.
Is there any thought? I know last year towards the end you started to sneak up on Donnie Bray, and you said, this isn't going to all of a sudden turn into a chase at the end like we had back in 2009 or whatever it was when you and Steve and Rod were running till the end in Arizona for Team of the Year. Do you have any eyeballs on a Team of the Year run at this point, or not at all?
No, not at all. And I had this conversation with some people, because I get asked that question a lot about Team of the Year and stuff, and I think it's a great honor to win the Team of the Year. But I think there's also some structure in the way you got to cook your season if you try and achieve Team of the Year. And it means, you need to cook the big contest. And, personally, there's a lot of contests that I like to go to that have 15 or 20 teams in them. I'll cook 2 or 3 contests this year that won't even be qualifiers for the Jack or the Royal or stuff like that. But our friends cook it, or it's from a small town that we just love to go to. So our season's really not dictated around trying to win Team of the Year. Ours is about where can we have the most fun and where have we done well in the past.
How many events do you have on the tentative schedule right now?
Well, I threw out a schedule and there was only 25 of them, on there. So I know I probably got 10 or 12 more that need to go on there. But that was just the first start. To tell you the truth, we've been so busy with the restaurant, with the diners, drive-ins, and dives, and everything happening over the winter months. I haven't looked much at a barbecue schedule. And actually, it was about a week before Houston that I finally got in the mood to barbecue.
And you come out firing with both barrels, taking reserve. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment for the size and the kind of the status of that particular event, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were very lucky. One thing that Doug didn't mention that's really tough there at Houston is they tag your meat. Well, you only get 2 racks of ribs, you only get 2 chickens, and you only get 2 briskets. So when you're turning in, let's say, ribs, you've got 1 rack of ribs for your first round and 1 rack of ribs for your finals. So you've got 1 rack of ribs to make it happen. And in the first round, like last year, we finaled in ribs. I think we ended up getting 5th in ribs. But you turn in the first rack, you got to turn in 6 bones. On the second rack, you have to turn in 10 bones. Well, I was cooking a rack of ribs that only had 11 bones on it, so I never even got to taste it going into the rib finals.
That's kind of pressing it right to the limit when you only have 1 rack to deal with instead of cooking 2 or 3 like some of the other teams do on a normal weekend.
Yeah, and like with the chicken, I mean, like Doug said, he spatchcocked it. I actually cut my chicken all the way through, made 2 chicken halves, and then turned them towards each other and actually tagged through the wings because they both have to be attached. So you really got 1 chicken to try, but you really can't. Like in KCBS, you can adjust a lot of flavors by doing things. You really don't have a chance to adjust anything. What you cook is what you got to turn in.
Darren Warth is the pitmaster of Iowa's Smokey D's, and he is the reserve grand champ at this weekend's Houston Livestock and Rodeo. If you would have won it, Darren, is there basically anything else that you need to win in competition barbecue at this point?
No, that's what I was saying. It was definitely it's definitely one of those bucket list items. Probably Memphis in May, but that seems like a lot of work, so I'm really not interested in that. So, I guess our new bucket list is to try and go win them all again.
All right, we look to Houston to win that one next year for sure. Darren Warth, Iowa Smokey D's. Always appreciate the time, Darren. Thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Sure, you're welcome.
There he is, Darren Warth, Iowa Smokey D's. Man, I'm telling you, if he would have won that, I mean, really, what else is there to win? He probably would have won everything at that point, as he said, aside from Memphis in May. But I mean, Darren, you don't have to cook whole hog. You can do ribs. I mean, you know how to cook ribs well. You know how to do pork shoulder well. Chris Lilly won Memphis in May last year with a stone cold frozen pork. He won it. Chris Lilly's pretty good. We'll be back to wrap up the show after I tell you about Butcher's Barbecue. That's right, folks. The easiest way to step up the barbecue and grilling game, visit butcherbbq.com. We all know Butcher's Barbecue is known for the injections, the pork, the beef, prime injection, the bird booster, all that good stuff. You can find them all at butcherbbq.com. Now, perhaps you're on the lookout for a go-to rub or sauce. Well, relax. You've hit the mother load here as well. ButcherBBQ.com has a full line of award-winning rubs. One of my personal favorites is that honey rub, which I am just about to run out of, so I'm going to have to place another order. Steak and brisket rub, love that stuff. Try the premium rub, especially if you inject with Butcher's, because it's formulated to work with that injection. Perfect 1-2 punch to impress judges and friends alike. Last but not least, I'll tell you about it every week, Butcher's Barbecue's sweet barbecue sauce. Look, when it comes to sauce, I'm as picky as it gets, right? Butcher's barbecue sauce wins in all the categories that are important for me. Not overly sweet, a nice slice of tang, just right amount of back-end heat, no liquid smoke that I can detect, so I appreciate it. You know, Dave took the time and effort to make a quality sauce and didn't take the easy way out. Grab a box of 6. It's going to go fast. You'll thank me later. No worries about breaking the bank on shipping. Items totaling up to $55 ship at $8.50. Between $55 and $200 ship at $9.75, and anything over $200 ships for free. So, as I say each and every week, do yourself a favor. Find items totaling up to $200 and a penny. You don't pay shipping, and you reap the rewards. That's right. Head on over to Butcher Barbecue right now. ButcherBBQ.com. That's ButcherBBQ.com. Stock up. Butcher's Barbecue. Always trust your butcher. And don't forget, you got the trade-in link thing going, too. Had a commercial injection that you don't like. You don't have to throw it away. You can send it to Dave, all in the commercial packaging. He'll weigh it and send you back, at your behest, the exact thing that you're looking for from his product. We're back to wrap up the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Get in the smoke. Call 877-448-0433 to get on the air. Now, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, we are back. 216-220-0966. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. We go to the one, the only. He's been in studio, for crying out loud. Patrick Paquette from the Basic Barbecue team. Patrick, how are you, buddy?
Hi, Greg. How you doing?
Doing absolutely fabulous, Patrick. What can I do for you, buddy?
Can I just share or vent a bit regarding the flag controversy?
Yes, your phone connection is horrible, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'll try and speak louder. It's this case. People get all worked up about the flag bit, and I understand it, and I agree. However, I would just ask those listening to your show that the importance of the flag being flown and taken care of be the same at the end of the contest and at night. As a first-generation American, we were brought up with, the flag code and all of that stuff. But that respect that's to everybody pissed off because they couldn't put the flag up needs to be carried in at the end of the contest when you see flags draped all over stuff and on the ground and just treated like shit. I get part of democracy is allowing that to happen, but there's a lot of hypocrisy when you get pissed off about not being able to put it up. But at the end of a contest, when everybody's running and got to go and it's time to leave and get out of here, you're going to treat it well then, too. And I just need to vent that because no one's talking about that other half of it. I understand why some places put in rules about dealing with the flag with some respect, and I'm just one of them guys. But it's just wanted that said because it just pisses me off when I see it sometimes.
Patrick, I agree 100%. If you have the flag out at night, you put a light on it. If you're going to be taking it down, you don't let it touch the ground. You're handling it the way you should. And so if you're going to get pissed off because somebody's telling you to take it down, city ordinance or not, raise it up, fly it because you like it, but treat it right at the end. Absolutely. Good call, Patrick. If you don't know how to treat the flag, make sure that you do some due diligence on your part. And don't be a hypocrite like Patrick is saying. Absolutely. I agree. All right. Thanks again to Darren Warth from Iowa Smokey D's. Thanks to Doug Scheiding from Row Cookers as well, joining me this hour as guests. All right, let's wrap it up. All the way back in the first hour, we talked with Ryan Moore, Knock Your Socks Off Barbecue, talking about the win over Lake Havasu. We then transitioned over to who I consider to be a Hall of Famer, Mike Davis, Lotta Barbecue, talking about his top 6 finish in Daphne, Alabama, moving on to the Sam's Club Regional Round in September, amongst some other things. Great interview. Go back and grab that one. And then in the second hour, as I just mentioned, we talked with Doug Scheiding from Row Cookers. He won the Houston Livestock and Rodeo Barbecue event, cooking with Across the Tracks Barbecue. And we just finished up with Darren Warth. Iowa Smokey D's took reserve Grand Championship honors this past weekend as well. If you use raw cast iron, as I leave you here tonight, reseason it each and every time, right? Reseason it each and every time. Little Pam, little Crisco, it starts to cool down, hit it with a little grill brush, knock the bits off, and then season it and give you generations of rust-free service. September 11th, 2001, I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.